What's up guys, WhoNeedsMeta here. Today I wanted to do a quick video on REDU rulings. REDU's been popping off a little bit more, and we of course have the charity event coming up on February 28th in Ohio. So today I wanted to go over a few ruling changes. Maybe you're an Edison player, maybe you're a GOAT player, maybe you're a hat player. And I kind of wanted to go over a few different rulings that you might need to know for the event, or if you just wanted to play REDU with your friends. The ruling I'd like to start with is Caius will now burn for 1,000 if it targets a Battle Fader or a Plague Spreader that was summoned off of its own effect. Previously, it wouldn't burn. It was considered removed by the replacement effect of the monster summon being Battle Fader or Plague Spreader, but now Caius will in fact burn for 1,000. The next ruling is a fairly simple one. It's that E-Hero Prisma now sends this cost. The only deck that really plays it are the Hero Lives variants of Gladiator Beast, which in my opinion is probably the best way to play the deck at this point. But yeah, that's the only time you'll really see it is in that list, but Prisma sends its cost as opposed to part of the effect. The next ruling is kind of an interesting one, and it's that face-down banished cards cannot be looked at by either player. This is mostly going to come up with Esper Girl, but it can come up with Junk Archer as well. But the face-down banished cards are considered private knowledge until I believe around 2014. I believe it was YCS Chicago. People online and like judge forums and stuff kept asking, what if I activate Rhoda with a face-down banished card? And I don't know what it is, and if I don't know if it's my last legal target, what happens? And I think people just got tired of answering this question, so they just said, hey, you can look at your own face-down banished cards. But prior to that event, you weren't allowed to do that. And this is one of the more recent changes for this format, and is that you cannot Inzector Hopper on turn 1. I believe this was in preparation of Megalo when people were worried about going Megalo Dragoons on turn 1. But if you do not have a battle phase, you cannot activate the effect of Inzector Hopper. Now this ruling does contradict the previous ruling where people played the deck more often when we had 3 Dragonfly and 3 Hornet, but once we got 1 Dragonfly, 1 Hornet, we also got this ruling to go along with it. The next ruling isn't so much a ruling as it is an errata, but the structure deck Merrick version of Necro Valley, which is what we play with here, it stops cards like Red MD, Rekindling, and Beckoning Light because those cards don't target. Previously, if you're an Edison player, you could do all of those cards and activate all those cards legally under Necro Valley. Now you are no longer allowed to do that. So it's cards that can't move themselves. And I should have the erratas on the screen as well. Next ruling involves Mind Crush. I've done an entire video on the history of Mind Crush years ago, but as a refresher, if all legal copies aren't accounted for in public knowledge places, whether the field, graveyard, or banished, you are allowed to verify the hand. Let's say you call a card that's at 1, like BLS, and you Mind Crush BLS and it's discarded. You don't reveal the hand there. But if you call a card like Wind Up Shark that's at 3 and they only discard 1 or 2 copies and you can only account for 1 or 2, then you do still reveal the hand. RBET players will be familiar with this ruling as I believe this is how it is ruled at RBETs. Now this next ruling is one that Edison players will be very intimate with, and that is the Monster Reincarnation discard Dandelion target that same Dandelion. In REDU format, that does not trigger, while in Edison, we all know that that does. That ruling was changed during the year 2012. This next ruling is a little rare and kind of niche, but I did want to bring it up because it is technically a ruling change. If DD Survivor uses its effect in the end phase and summons itself, and then is proceeded to be removed via either Trench or Tribute while like D-Fissure Macro is up, or if it's bottomless, previously it would summon itself again in the following end phase. In REDU, it just stays banished. This was changed, I believe, in the Legendary Collection GX, so that would be November of 2011. So YCS Columbus 2011, which introduced Dark Worlds, is also the event that introduced this ruling. And this next ruling is one that would appear in Edison and will likely appear here as the cards are also played in a variety of decks, and that is Tragodia and Deck Devastation Virus. Question mark monsters are no longer treated as 0 in hand by DDV. Previously they were, but around the fall of 2012 is when this ruling was changed, sometime between March and October of 2012. Next, we're going to look at the errata history of Starlight Road, specifically the errata that says negate the activation as opposed to negate the effect. This is the version that is printed during REDU format. Now, there are some debates as to whether or not this was actually ruled this way, but I went ahead and I found a ruling from the Bottomless Trap Hole Wiki stating that you can respond to the Summon of Stardust, meaning this was an official ruling. That being said, that doesn't mean this card can be activated in the damage step. It cannot. On the other hand, a card that can be activated in the damage step in this format is Photon Strike Bouncer. During this time, monster effects that negate effects and directly respond to those effects can be used in the damage step. The reason we can use Bouncer in the damage step, but we can't use a card like Effect Veiler, is simply because Photon Strike Bouncer has to respond directly to an effect. Bouncer states when a monster effect is activated, while Effect Veiler just says during your opponent's main phase, and that's the key difference as to why one can be used in the damage step and one cannot. Oh, I really hope that made sense. I took like 7 takes and I couldn't figure out how to word it, and just ask questions in the comments. I promise it makes sense in my head. Speaking of damage step rulings, this is another card that's allowed to be used in the damage step, and it's actually because of an errata. Gemini Imps can be used in the damage step. The biggest culprit of this is going to be Morphing Jar in the Dark World matchup, but it can come up with cards like Spirit Reaper and to a very lesser extent Don Zalug, but the Turbo Pack errata of Gemini Imps is what allows it to be used in the damage step. Previously it couldn't, but that was mostly because Konami said so ruling. The next one is a pretty well-known one, but I did want to mention it just in case people didn't know, but you cannot tribute a different type or attribute under Rivalry or Gozen match, similarly to how you can't synchro summon with 2 Fiend type monsters to make a Stardust Dragon. And that about does it for this one. Please let me know if there are any rulings I missed that you have questions about. Please put them in the comment section. I don't mind doing the research if it's something that I'm not familiar with. But I do get asked ruling questions on Discord pretty regularly, and I don't mind being tagged in those ruling channels. You're more than welcome to ask ruling questions there or in the comments below, and I'll be happy to answer any of them. Thank you guys for watching, and take care.